Hey folks, Jordan with the Young Turks, TYT Politics. Hope you're having a lovely day. This is my third time now trying to get Wi-Fi connection, so I hope you can hear me. I hope you can see me. Let me know if you can. I'm kind of in a little gangster-looking shot here at a coffee shop. So you got the pipe behind me and all these wonderful things. Let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you can see me. Let me know all that, and I will check on my end if it is working. 1 second here. What will be, will be. Okay, I think this is working. Let's see here. If you could comment, that would be lovely. Let's see here. Did I make it public? That would be important too. Hold on. Did I make this public? Oh, God. What we have to do in this business. Hold on, public. Okay, all right. Looks like it's working to me. You're John Cena, so no. I don't know what that means, but let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me. I'm just going to keep talking, and hopefully it works. So, you have, obviously, there was a terror attack last night in New York City. Emma was on the ground there, so go check out her videos up on the channel, youtube.com/TYT Politics. I thought she did really good reporting. It was a chaotic situation. A lot of reports were going around, some of them false, so I think she did a great job under the circumstances. But before the terror attack, which of course Trump is now using to call for a Muslim ban, immigration bans, all these things. So when a white person shoots up 58 people in Las Vegas, our thoughts and prayers when 58 people die in Las Vegas because a white person shot them. But if a brown person runs over 8 people in New York City, we need to do a ban, we need to do all these things. So that's the kind of president we have here. But before that happened, Trump met in the White House with all the usual suspects in business. The oligarchs, shall we say. The oligarchs. Let me just check. Is it working, Emma? So he met with small business administration heads, he met with the Chamber of Commerce, and he met with the National Association of Wholesale Distributors. So this was to discuss tax reform. But he was trying to push this tax reform, and CNN is helping him, of course, by calling it that. So let me give you a few quotes from this monstrosity. I think it's important to talk about this because although it's not a surprise to you that he's lying, and this is a major tax giveaway for the wealthy and corporate America and the oligarchy. This is exactly what Ronald Reagan did. This is exactly what George W. Bush did. And because the corporate media just lets them regurgitate lie after lie after lie, it continues to go through. And that's how we have the income inequality that we have in this country. So, you have the Chamber of Commerce person in this meeting with Trump said, we're going to have some differences among the business community on what should be the takeaways and the ads. And I think your planning is really, really good. So, translated, that means we're going to have some differences on how much money you're going to give us in this bank robbery. We think you should basically give us 0% taxes on all corporate taxes, capital gains, all that stuff. So we'll have some differences, but we really think your planning is terrific, President Trump. It's unbelievable. This meeting is basically a bank robbery out in the open that the president was having with the business community yesterday. Trump, and I quote, says, look, the Democrats want to raise taxes and really create obstruction, and the Republicans want to lower taxes and deal with regulations. I've gotten rid of more regulations in the first 9 months than any president has for their term in office. That's a big statement, and we've really just begun. I would say we have at least another 50% that we want to do. So again, he says this, it's not true. Democrats in general are for higher taxes, but they are not for raising, the corporate Democrats aren't for raising taxes on the oligarchs to a reasonable level. Bernie Sanders is, Elizabeth Warren is, progressives are. Corporate Democrats, yeah, let's raise the taxes slightly. But President Trump and his allies in the media are allowing this narrative to fit. Oh, Democrats are obstructionists and they just want to raise your taxes. I'm going to cut your taxes. No. What he's doing is cutting his friends in business and big banks and big oil and Silicon Valley. He's going to cut their taxes. You know who's going to pay the difference? You and I. That's who's going to pay the difference, because this is who always pays the difference. Okay. So Trump also says the big thing is that we have companies that really want to move back into the United States, but because of regulation and what we're doing with taxes and some big ones we're going to be announcing very soon. Oh, so now they want to come into the United States because he's cutting regulation and cutting taxes. This is true, but let's continue. It says tax cuts, which is really desperately needed, and there's so many other things happening, including bringing $4 trillion back into the United States. And that money is going to be put to work in our country for our people, creating our jobs in factories and plants. I think the number could be higher than 4 trillion. It's been 2.5 trillion for so long. Everyone keeps saying 2.5 trillion, but it's gotten a lot bigger. I think the number is going to be well over 4 trillion coming back into our country. People are going to pay less tax by a lot. Companies are going to start rebuilding. They are going to expand and build new plants in this country. They won't be going to other countries like they have been for decades. And to that, what history tells us, that is nonsense, and that those are lies, plain and simple. And the corporate media can't say so because apparently their parent companies over at CNN, MSNBC will benefit from these tax reform for the rich. But none of these companies that they are bringing money back in have demonstrated in the past, even at a lower tax rate, if they have money offshores. In 2004, George W. Bush did a repatriation holiday at 5% tax rate. So companies with money offshores were able to bring their offshore profits back to the United States and basically pay nothing, 5%. And what did they do? Was there an explosion of jobs? Did they open up new factories, hire new assembly line workers? Of course not. They bought another yacht. They did stock buybacks. They gave dividends, and that was that. So Trump's talking about 4 trillions coming back into this country. Well, are you going to get them to sign on the dotted line that they are going to create X amount of jobs by lowering the tax rate? Because if you're not, I'm not interested. Not interested. It's a lie. So there are other lies. Somebody from the National Association of Wholesale Distributors, another liar, says a few of us in the room are old enough to remember being in this same room when President Reagan was working on tax reform. 30 years or so have passed. The tax code doesn't resemble what was done in '86. Reform is long, long overdue. So this guy from the National Association of Wholesale Distributors was in the same room when Ronald Reagan took from the poor, took from the middle class, and gave money to the bankers, to big oil, to pharmaceutical executives, to, at the time, tech executives, not Silicon Valley because it wasn't that big. So basically he's saying, thank you, President Trump, for bringing back the oligarchy that was so lacking. And don't get me wrong, Obama didn't exactly raise taxes high enough on wealthy people, and he didn't give big enough tax cuts to middle class or poor people. But let's be straight, the Republican Party, George W. Bush, Ronald Reagan, and now Donald Trump are essentially, this is an out in the open, transparent bank robbery. They are taking money from you and I and poorer people to give their friends in the Chamber of Commerce, on Wall Street, in big oil, in Silicon Valley, and big pharma, all of our money. That's called reverse Robin Hood, and that's called socialism. Socialism for the rich, because we live in a socialistic country. The problem is it's socialistic, and money has been redistributed to the top. But Trump is saying, oh, we're going to bring $4 trillion back in the United States, and there's going to be new plants built, and new factories, and more thousands and thousands of jobs. This is provably false, and it is theft. It is, honestly, it's a crime. It is a crime what they're doing. They are, literally, they're moving, their proposal was to take the lowest rate of 10%, which is for people basically in poverty, and raise it to 12%. For people in poverty, raising the lowest rate 2 percentage points could literally be the difference between having a roof over your head or not, between getting food for your kids or not. It is theft and it is immoral. And they want to lower the corporate tax rate and the top marginal tax rate. Corporate tax rate they want to lower down to, I believe, 20% from 35, and they want to lower the top rate from 39.6 down to 35, and get rid of a lot of those terrible taxes like the estate tax, for the rich, because we are strangling the rich in this country. So let me tell you, when Trump lied repeatedly in that meeting, when the National Association of Wholesale Distributors lied repeatedly in that meeting, while the head of the Small Business Administration lied in that meeting, let me tell you what CNN said coming out of break. Okay? CNN's Dana Bash. They had Trump's little conversation with these people in the White House, and then they came back to them. The president, having a meeting, extended conversation for the cameras with people who were there from various industries to talk tax reform. What the president did not want to talk about was a question from reporters on whether he'll pardon Paul Manafort. But let's bring it back and stick with the issue the president is talking about, tax reform. So CNN is repeatedly calling this tax reform when it's really just socialism for the rich, when it's really just a bank robbery and legal theft. They just continue to call it tax reform. And you know what the rest of the segment talked about on CNN? How does the politics play for President Trump? Will he be able to finally turn around his legislative record, which so far has gotten nothing done? It's unbelievable. These are provable facts. If you're a journalist and you are watching the president lie that he is bringing $4 trillion back into the United States offshore, that's a lie. First of all, it's not $4 trillion. Secondly, you have data and historical evidence that does not create jobs, that those CEOs of these companies do not create jobs, build new plants, manufacture new things, dedicate money to research and development, retraining, nothing. They don't do any of that. It's proven. There's data, there's history. Not so recent history in the 2000s. Dana Bash didn't talk about that. Why would she? Her parent company, Time Warner, they want these tax cuts. They want this deregulation. So Dana Bash isn't going to go, and nobody at CNN is going to call this what it is, which is a bank robbery, legalized theft that's going to get the rich richer and stomp on the poor and the formerly middle class, now working poor, which is the middle class. MSNBC, same thing. They're not calling this what it is. They talk about it in the prism of politics, and Morning Joe talks about it in the narrative of, well, he's the first president without any monumental legislative achievement in his first year. So the stakes are high for President Trump to pass tax reform. Well, isn't it journalists' jobs to call something what it is, to state facts? There is no historical data that shows letting CEOs bring back trillions of dollars offshore that they've stashed offshore because they are delinquent on paying the United States government. So they make the profits off the United States back, but they don't actually contribute to the United States because our politicians are bought off by these same people. So our politicians allow them essentially to hide their money offshore and not pay taxes. So can't build new roads, can't build new airports, can't have more nutrition programs for children. None of that. Better schools, none of that. Because we don't have the revenue. Because they're not paying. I don't want to sound like Bernie Sanders, but they're not paying their fair share of taxes. And what Trump is doing, I covered Trump. I probably covered about 30 to 40 rallies/events of his last year. What President Trump is doing is diametrically opposite of what candidate Trump said he was going to do. And I knew that at the time. I told the audience that at the time, that if you're buying this BS, I got a bridge to sell you. Trump is not interested in middle-class tax relief. And he's certainly not interested in, taxing and making a more progressive tax system. And the corporate media is certainly not interested in telling you the facts. So if there's any Trump supporters watching and you voted for Trump, I got bad news for you. This tax reform aka legalized theft, socialism for the rich, redistribution from the bottom to the top, is not going to help you. You're going to be in the same exact place you were when you voted for him. That's all for now. I'll be live again later. Check out our other videos, youtube.com/TYTPolitics, and you can follow me at Jordan Sheridan on the Twitter.